At last, you've reached Gilded Vale. Soaking wet and your muscles aching, you can only think of hot food and a warm, soft bed. The glow of the town pierces the fog of the night, but it's a cold light. The cast of the shadows on the road cut a sharp and unwelcome relief. Anxiety churns up in your empty stomach, and you press on. Vaguely, the outline of a tree begins to emerge from the dark. You don't see him at first. The shadows wrap around him such that when you first notice him, it's as if someone cut a slit in the night itself, and he stepped through it. He's flanked by two others, likewise garbed. As you approach, to your horror, you see a corpse dangling stiffly from the tree. And still more. Your grip tightens on your hammer. A man approaches you. His skin is dull and gray as the desolate village behind him. He scans you with sunken, lifeless eyes. You must be one of the new settlers. His voice is a dry croak. Welcome to Gilded Vale. You'll be pleased to know that we've had some recent vacancies here. He glances at the gnarled, leafless monstrosity of a tree next to him. Do you welcome everyone this way? The only answer you hear is the buzzing of flies from the tree. His gaze swivels back to you. Of course, we'll need to make some inquiries first. The inestimable Lord Radric VII has taken great pains to insulate our town from Widewind's legacy. He appraises you over half-moon spectacles and scratches his chin. Have you ever sired a hollow-born child? What are you talking about? An infant born without a soul, of course. Lord Radric has made it his first priority to eliminate this scourge from our village. I should warn you, stranger. Here in Gilded Vale, we have a special place for dissidents, charlatans, and those who would hide a curse in our midst. He steps to the side and inclines his head ever so slightly toward the deformed tree. His lordship's wife is with child and due any day now. Without his approval, I shan't be able to find you a permanent settlement. It will have to wait until after the birth. He folds his arms. We can continue our interview then, after the bell tolls from Radric's hold to signal my lord's new heir. In the meantime, you can find temporary accommodations at the inn just southwest of here. You said something about Hollowborn and Widewind's legacy before. He blinks. I forget that you foreigners do not have this curse in your homelands. The Hollowborn have been a scourge upon the Dyrwood for almost 15 years now. He lowers his voice to a whisper. Children born without souls. He shakes his head. Pitiful, dumb things that breathe, barely, but do not truly live. Some say the Hollowborn are a disease. Some say they are a punishment from the gods. He raises his empty hands. In truth, no one knows. But they began spreading after the Saints' War, and so the name Widewind's legacy stuck in honor of that foul, blasphemous pretender. His voice shakes with vitriol. I see. Lord Radric's decrees may seem strict at times, but he has our best interests at heart. He nods. If you have any other questions, don't hesitate to ask. It's important that everyone in Gilded Vale understand our rules. I've been feeling strange ever since a close call with the Buick. Is there someone in town who could help? The magistrate frowns. Whatever your problem, it sounds like a matter for an animancer. However, the only animancer in Gilded Vale isn't in any condition to speak. He points at a body hanging from the tree. He sneers. Consider yourself fortunate. After she failed Lord Radric, we saw to it that she wouldn't profit from the misplaced trust of others. A bad cure is often worse than none at all. But if you're set on finding a bottle of troll piss or a dead Audra pebble to rub on your forehead, you're welcome to check her pockets. A little corpse stink is nothing when you're digging for shit. My advice, however, is to be satisfied that you escaped and leave it at that. Before I got here, I saw several people conducting a strange ceremony near some ruins. He regards you carefully. You'll want to mind where you mention that. Trespassing on Nguithan ruins is illegal, not to mention dangerous. You probably saw someone attempting some new ritual to appease the gods. People will try anything these days. Beareth of Mercy we certainly have. Well, I don't think so. Just as they finished, there was a Buick. He polishes his spectacles on his sleeve. If you'd been that close to a Buick, you wouldn't be standing here. All right. Goodbye, then. Urjat nods curtly. Keep out of Listen. 2 tolls. Let that be the last. 3. Gods have mercy. Urjat looks out toward the east, his expression unreadable. He blinks slowly and turns his attention back to you. It seems your arrival is ill-timed. 3 bells toll only for the death of a Roderick. I fear Lord Roderick's heir is lost. Or else Hollowborn, and so lost all the same. A peculiar spasm crosses his face, and the corner of his mouth quirks up in a mirthless smile. You should tread carefully. Circumstances have changed a great deal. What do you mean? You come to us at a time of mourning. The legacy is struck at the heart of Gilded Vale. Our efforts to redeem ourselves in the eyes of Bereth must be redoubled. He sets a steady gaze on you. What happened? He shrugs one bony shoulder. I will know more details when the messengers arrive. The vagaries of childbirth, perhaps, but that is not your concern. Does this affect the Lord's offer to new settlers? I can be sure of nothing right now. I advise you to get some rest. The inn, or a stable for all I care. Find me afterwards. I will know more soon enough. Farewell. You don't know what to feel. Gilded Vale is wrong. But you left your last footsteps behind you miles ago and were only upright by sheer force of will. Determined, you push yourself onwards in the direction the magistrate ushered you. There are some townsfolk still out on the streets, for reasons you're sure you can't comprehend. You see 4 people gathered by the door to the inn. Their raised voices and chopping gestures suggest an argument reaching its climax. The first figure raises his hands for calm, his face partially obscured by a hood, but his height and stature suggest an elf. I meant no offense. Let's put this matter to rest over a round, shall we? My treat. The others, 2 folk men and an elven woman, don't look convinced. The woman crosses her arms. Hoping to soothe our pride with a few Edir coppers, eh? She spits at his feet. We don't need your coin. What's going on? One of the other men points to the hooded elf. His eyes are red from drink, but his gaze is focused. Mocking us even while he shelters in our village. Just goes to show you what his fancy Edir manners are worth. We don't take to that kind of treatment. Not from foreigners, and especially not from Edirans. The second man thrusts his chin at the elf. He stinks of sour ale. Go on, say it again. I'm itching for an excuse. If you're itching for the kindling touch of your sister, you cocksfeather. A collective cry of outrage rises from the 3 locals. The second man snarls, I'll cut that barrel-licking tongue out of your head. Horror and shock paint themselves across the elven man's face in broad, hasty strokes. This is a misunderstanding. I didn't say... He frowns and swallows. Whatever you think it is I said. He plants his feet. Something surly and raw flickers through his eyes. We've nae quarrel. The elven woman draws a blade. That is where you're wrong. I don't think attacking him is such a good idea. The 3 drunks scowl at you. And why is that? They look at each other. One of the men gives the other 2 a warning shake of his head before turning to you. We're done for now, but this one better watch his step around here because we're not going anywhere. With a final scowl at the elf, he turns to leave. As the 3 stumble away, the elf turns to you, the tension almost gone from his smooth face. Not quite how I hoped to get to know the neighbors. Thank you for your timely assistance with that awkward situation. Well, I'm glad I could help. He gives you a quick smile. Courtesy is a rare pleasure in these parts, though your accent suggests you're no more local than I. He straightens his hood, and you note the remains of fraying embroidery on his gloves. His boots are caked with dirt of many months' travel, but the leatherwork beneath it is sturdy and fine. I suppose introductions are in order after that little fiasco. Aloth Corficer, at your service. Tell me about yourself. I'm a wizard by training, and an adventurer by necessity. I was born in the Seathwood, part of the mainland of the Edir Empire. Both of my parents served the nobility, which afforded me an education for which I'm grateful. However, there were no open positions in those houses, so I decided to seek new means in a new land. How exactly did you come to be here? I was traveling with a caravan, but we were separated near some ruins. Gwithan ruins. Those could be dangerous places during the best of times, which these are not. Half the locals would arrest you for trespassing, the rest would kill you outright. He leans closer. I'm curious, what exactly did you find there? Several hooded figures operating a strange machine. Aloth goggles at you silently, apparently assessing your earnestness. Finally, he gives you a clipped, awkward laugh. You too managed to find yourself in rather interesting predicaments. What are you doing in Gilded Vale? An excellent question! He folds his arms and frowns, looking to the center of town. I came looking for fresh air and cheap land. Instead, the magistrate gave me directions to the inn and a story about the local lord's expected wife. He cocks his head, looking at you. But I take it that's a familiar tale. And you? I've been experiencing strange things of late. I'm looking for an expert on souls. His eyes flicker as he looks you up and down. Indeed. The local lord has searched far and wide for similar specialists. He's rid himself of them almost as desperately. He nods at the gnarled old tree in the center of town. His darting glance takes in the tumble-down buildings and the fallow, rock-strewn fields. I expect that such expertise would be best sought elsewhere. You don't exactly look like a settler. A sly grin crosses his lips. Begging your pardon, but neither do you. And yet, circumstances can find a person in the strangest of places. And just how did you manage to cross those three drunks? I'm afraid that was a matter of misunderstandings and mistranslations. He tenses his fingers and looks away. It doesn't help that people in these parts remember the war with Edir like it was yesterday. Well, you did make a rather lewd suggestion regarding one of the aggressors and his own sister. That. He clears his throat and adjusts his sleeves. As I tried to tell them, they misheard me. Happens all too easily after a few pints, and the accent doesn't help. I see. For which I'm grateful. Let's, discuss something else, shall we? Actually, I'd better get going. As should I, given recent events. It's just as well. I've had enough of watered wine and lumpy beds at the inn. He wrinkles his nose. They say even the owner tired of the place. Just up and left one day. It explains quite a lot about the upkeep. He gives you a guardedly hopeful look. Perhaps I could join you. Could use a change of scenery, and it's better to travel in numbers. You know what? So do I. Let's go then. Excellent. I shall follow you. Oh! Greetings and welcome to the Blackhound Inn. The innkeeper bows her head curtly. Please, sit where you'd like. Would you like a drink? Or a room? We have two available at the moment. I'm afraid we can't offer much by way of good meal today, she sighs. Unless you're fond of cold porridge. You only serve porridge? Aloth looks at you and shakes his head quickly. It isn't by choice, I assure you. We used to serve some of the finest meals in the Dyrwood. We've had a damnable run of luck is all. It's been a bad season for the crops, and we're running low on supplies. I sent Tenforth up north to stock up. Tenforth's our cook, you see. An artist with a good roast. But it's been days since he was supposed to return, and we haven't seen any sign of him. She sighs again. I've only just taken over from the last owner myself. I don't know what I'll do if he doesn't turn up. I could try to find him for you. Really? Her face brightens. I'd be grateful to you if you did. He was traveling through the Valewood. It's probably nothing, a broken wheel maybe, but I do worry. You see him safely home, and I think everyone in here would sing your praises. Nobody much likes my porridge. Well, I'd like one of those rooms if possible. Of course, we keep them nice and tidy. You were sorry to do it to this Aloth, but one more night in Gilded Vale wouldn't hurt him. You just needed to stay scarce to the drunken townsfolk. You have a handful of coppers to your name. Your dreams of a soft bed disappear in a puff of smoke. Pasha, sensing your disappointment, is kind enough to offer a corner of the common room, free of charge. She hands you and Aloth each a blanket. Your blanket is scratchy and threadbare, but it's better than nothing. Aloth looks dejected, but understanding. The few kith still milling around begin to thin out, some going up to their rooms, most marching back into the night, off to their homes. The elven woman and her entourage glare at you as they walk out, the larger of the two men bumping into Aloth brusquely. You retreat to the corner Pasha set aside for you, and before your head touches the floor, you drift into sleep. Your sleep is restless and fevered, assaulted by hisses and whispers, blanketed with a suffocating anxiety. You open your eyes to awaken, and find yourself in front of Gilded Vale's gallows tree, the creaking of its ropes growing louder in your mind until the sound is deafening. Hanging from the tree is an old dwarf woman whose face is shriveled inward like moldering fruit. Her head hangs limply to one side. As you look at her, she looms larger and larger in your mind until she is mere inches from your face. Suddenly her head snaps up and her eyes open. and they're empty, and behind them is a vast nothingness that makes your stomach drop. Her mouth slowly parts, and with a gust of rancid air, she speaks a word. Watch her. You jolt awake, the foul smell of the dwarf woman's breath still permeating your nostrils. Sweat runs down your face in thick droplets, and your skin is soaked from head to toe. You remember the woman. You remember seeing her decaying face when you spoke with the magistrate. He called her an animancer. Though it fills you with new, queasy apprehension, you feel a strange compulsion to see this woman once more, if only to confirm she is truly dead. In the morning, you wake and tell Aloth there is something you need to see. The squat, distended body of an elderly dwarf woman dangles from a thin, crooked bow that sags at the tug of her noose. The bloated purple flesh of her neck, worn away in patches like moth-eaten linen, bulges over the rope that suspends her, and her lifeless head lolls forward rigidly from one side to the other when the breeze shifts. You perceive a faint glow around her that casts no light on its surroundings, but there is a tepid warmth to it, and you feel somehow that you could reach out and touch it, not with your hands, but with some aspect of yourself that has no worldly dimension. You take a deep breath, clearing your mind, focusing on your objective. As you exhale, you feel yourself spreading out towards the hanging woman, perceiving all that lies between you and her with a new, but somehow familiar awareness. Once you have expanded enough to reach her, there is a sudden jolt to your mind, ringing, electric surge of images and words and sounds. Involuntarily, you shut your eyes and feel yourself being pulled down to some deeper consciousness in a space occupied only by you and the hanging woman, and when you open them again, she's staring at you, with eyes clouded in a milky fog, her body still swaying in a wind you no longer feel from a tree that stands planted in a misty void. The woman gives a slow nod of her head, the rope creaking as she does so, and she smiles at you. Have you come here to see me, dear? Or have you gotten lost? Her eyes squint as she peers down at you. Ah, it's both, I think. Yes? Am I imagining this? She considers for a moment, looking down at her limp body. No, I think not. Her tongue clicks and she shakes her head. Pity that. It would be simpler. Mercy, even. To not have to wonder, no? Alas, we are here, you and I, wherever here may be. Well, how are you able to speak to me? Caldara moves her tongue around her mouth, as if testing it. Is that what we're doing? Perhaps it just seems that way. Perhaps it's the easiest way for your mind to make sense of it. She gives you a motherly smile. I think it's a very good choice. I'd like to know something about you. Me? She shakes her head in protest. I'll bore you to tears, though. Who are you? She breathes a mild sigh, sending a small beetle skittering from inside her cheek. And here I thought you'd come to visit me in particular. Her arms turn outward stiffly in what might be a curtsy. Caldara de Berenci of the Valian Royal Academy of Animantic Sciences. Not the greatest of their number, but I came here all the same because this was where my help was needed. What happened to you? She laughs, a rasping, choked cackle escaping between rows of buttery yellow teeth, causing her body to bob up and down with each spasm. Seeing your blank expression, she catches herself. Oh, come now, such a question. As though the answer weren't plain as a rope tied for strangling. Allow an old dwarf her last bit of cheer. Well, I came where I was needed, didn't I? Offered my services to Lord Radric for a pittance. Humble pittance. I was to examine the Lord's wife, see why the gods have seen fit to poison her womb. Studied her for months, looked high and low for impurities, tested her valence, the permeability of her existence. Do you know what I found? What? She shakes her head. Nothing at all. A healthy woman head to toe, blessed with a beautiful soul. Such a sweet woman, too. Meek but warm-hearted. A few months' time, and the lord of the house demanded answers. For a time I told him what he wanted to hear. Oh, yes, my lord, she is riddled with imbalances. I must have time to cure her. As the birth drew near, he grew impatient, as lords do. And this is where I've ended up. You mentioned an animancer. What is that? A student of the soul. Something so basic, yet so poorly misunderstood. But so many breakthroughs have been made in my lifetime. She cackles. Had been made. Had been. To hear the locals tell it, we're a gang of soul-manglers that preys upon the weak-minded. And the worst of us are. But the best of us? The best? Inspirations. Miracle workers. My parents were soul twins. Miserable before they met, empty inside. There's an animancer who helped them find one another, turn their lives around. Who would believe the stories? Amnesiacs helped to remember their lives. The suicidal brought back from the brink of oblivion. The elderly afforded extra moments to say their goodbyes. How soon we forget when we're afraid. It's a fascinating science. A fascinating time to be alive in a place like the Dyrwood that does not control the research, no? I love the Valian Republics for many things, but their recent caution will leave them behind, I fear. I'm sure. Well, I have other questions, if you'd answer them. Of course, Tyr. I need to understand something that's happened to me. She nods, a look of pity on her face, as though consoling a child. The world looks a little different than it used to, is that it? Feels like you're noticing things for the first time that have always been there? She nods. You've seen past the shroud. It only takes an instant. Your soul remembers, yes? Remembers how it sees when it leaves the body? Like being reminded of a dream you'd forgotten. She nods again. You're a watcher now, and a watcher you will stay. What's a watcher? What indeed? Long hours have many animancers spent studying such things. Not I, though. Not I. I'll tell you what I know, though, since fair is fair, and here we are visiting you and I, and it reminds me of better times. Souls pass on. Some say through Audra stones, which are the blood veins of the world. They leave the world for a time and are reborn into it, sometimes more than they were before, but usually less, and seldom the same. For all souls, there is a time when they do not live, yet have not passed on, and those souls roam the world same as you or I, either leaving or lost. But no one sees them because they've forgotten how. A watcher sees, though, knows what to look for. And sometimes they know a person just by looking at them, know where they've been in ages past when their bodies were other bodies, see memories even their owner can't recall. A wonder to behold when all goes well. A wonder. What do you mean when all goes well? Oh, nothing to be afraid of, I'm sure. It's just much to take in for some. Sometimes there's trouble sleeping or other difficulties. She smiles at you reassuringly, fanning out a tuft of long whiskers that sprouts from one of her cheeks. An inspired gleam crosses her murky eyes. You should see old Mayorwald. He could tell you much more than I. A watcher just like you. Helped many in his days. Took up in an old keep no one would claim. Not far, not far. Cadnua, beyond the Black Meadow. He will welcome the company. I'll take that into consideration, thank you. But while we're here, I think I survived a Beowick. Do you know why that would be? Caldara praises you with a scholarly interest for a moment, before resuming her cheerful demeanor. Did you now, dear? My, that would be something, wouldn't it? Could be luck. Could certainly be. A storm can be a careless thing. Or maybe it got its hands around your soul but couldn't pick it up. A soul could be heavy if it stayed in one place through its time. Strong souls, we call them in the trade. She smiles sadly at a thought. Called them. Those days are all behind me, no? Souls can break apart over time? Oh yes, entropy. Rimmergon's work. We know little of why or how. We lose pieces of ourselves when we die and pick up pieces of others when we're born again, but lessen what we lost. We've tried to stop it with animatic sciences, but with little success. A very small few resist Rimmergon's influence and stay together through some force of defiance, at least for a time. But they all succumb eventually, I think. She clicks her tongue. Well, Caldera de Barenci, thank you for your time. You've given me a lot to think about. Farewell. Goodbye, my dear. It was lovely visiting. Caldera closes her eyes, and her head slumps forward over the news, and your surroundings seem to bleed into your vision from some unknown place of waiting. Finally, you're beginning to get some answers. You wish Caldera could have told you more, but this Mayorwald is a promising lead. If he was a watcher, maybe he could help you find out more about what it means to be one of the Brishelguin, or a cipher, as Caldera called them. Aloth looks at you through narrowed eyes. Are you all right? You seemed lost just now. I think I'm a watcher. His arched eyebrows recede into his hood. Well, that is interesting. He gives you a sly grin. And I expect this has something to do with the hooded figures in the ruins, In any case, I appreciate your honesty. Since we're traveling together, it's probably wise for us to share these things. Do you know anything about watchers? Only that they're rare, and they seem to have unique insights into certain soul conditions, as you've just demonstrated. Uh-huh. Well, let's continue on. 17 and a half. The smell of pipe smoke, once earthy and sweet, winds its way into your nostrils. Your eyes trace the smoke to its origin, where you find a broad man with straw-colored hair leaning against a mossy rock wall, his pipe held to his lips with one meaty hand. He looks you directly in the eye, but the look is not aggressive. He regards you with a peculiar smirk. 17 and a half. Could be 18, depending on how you count the dwarf woman. Excuse me. The dwarf woman. You were trying to figure out whether to count her as a full person. I think you oughta. What are you talking about? The people hanging from the tree. 18 of them, last I counted, anyway. Aloth frowns. Is that what you people do for fun around here? He extends his hand. Name's Adair. Though the people around here might as well be 19. He looks you up and down and grimaces. Don't think I'd put you much higher than 22. 23 tops. He tisks. You look like the sort that likes to get involved. What makes you think I was interested in the dwarf woman? He looks at you a moment, his brow arched, his smirk broadens. I was smoking over here, saw you staring at her. Twice I refilled my pipe. You never so much as blinked. Your mouth was so slack I almost took you for Roderick. Yeah, I've been a bit out of sorts lately. Of course, we all got our bad days when we stand perfectly still and stare at corpses for a while without blinking. He winks. Uh-huh. Would you happen to know what a watcher is? He glances at you quickly, then leans in. Careful, friend. It is best not to use that word around here. Could be any number of Roderick bootlickers within earshot. Ciphers, animancers, watchers, same thing in the eyes of these folks around here. Roderick especially. They come through these parts all the time with their cures preying on the desperate. None of them are who they claim to be. Of course, seeing you with that funny look, I'd be halfway inclined to believe you were having some kind of communion with the dwarf. Either case, maybe I'm not 19 after all. No offense. Why do you think you're going to be hanged? Town's had it in for me for a long time now. Only fellow who ever stuck up for me, well, he's number 18 up there. My headman on the farm. Used to be my captain during the war. The war. Saints' War. Only one in my lifetime. Fellow decides he's the living incarnation of Aethys. Overthrows Red Saris, marches on the Dyrwood. So we gave him a Dyrwood and hello. What is a Dyrwood and hello? Blew him up. He smiles at this, but the smile is one recounting a joke for effect rather than enjoyment. I had some other questions. I got time. Why was your headman hanged? Got involved. Radrick sent men down here the other day. Said they had it on good authority someone in town was working with Kolsch, plotting Roderick's overthrow. Said if he didn't come forward right then and there, they'd hang every last one of us. No one was coming forward, so Swithin, that's my headman, he steps up and says it's him. They took him at his word. He sighs and shakes his head, his eyes fixed on the tree. Bound to happen sooner or later. If not for plotting against Radrick, then for protecting me. And what's the town got against you? He shrugs. Pick the wrong god. That's what it comes down to. Used to be a lot of Aethys worshippers in Gilded Vale. That mess of rocks over there was a temple to him, to give you some idea. Then one day, somebody named Widewind shows up on Dyrwood's doorstep, says he's the living flesh of Aethys, got an army with him. Suddenly, Aethys isn't so popular in these parts. My brother Woden and me, neither of us believed it. No way that was Aethys. He enlisted, and then I did too. But he didn't make it back. After the war, people took to punishing Aethys worshippers, accusing them of treason. Got real ugly, especially after the legacy started. Folks needed someone to blame. I was safe because I fought, but then this rumor starts that my brother, that he was on the other side. And I wasn't so safe anymore. Not till my headman stepped in, and they'd have to hang him to get to me. He looks up at the tree, his eyes trailing one of the swaying bodies. Seems that's no longer a concern. Of course, townies don't do the hanging these days, but when Radrick's men come, they got no problem doing the pointing. Aloth glances at you and lowers his voice. You can see why I was eager to leave. You mentioned someone called Kolsch. Who was that? Someone who got tired of all the hangings. He's on the run now. Probably will be till they catch him. If you're next to be hanged, what are you still doing here? He gives a half smile. Drinking, mostly. Point of fact, I'm on my way out. Just haven't figured where I'm going yet. Not a whole lot of places out there don't think Widewind's legacy started with Widewind. Well, I'm always looking for the help. We could travel together. Where are you headed? Some place called Cadnua. There's an old watcher there who might be able to help me. I seem to remember hearing something about that years ago. He tamed the place. People would seek him out for all kinds of things. Troubles of the soul, questions for the departed. Of course, that was back when you didn't have to say watcher with a hush on your breath. Something kindles in Adair's eyes, and the vigor of purpose finds its way to his voice. A man such as he, there'd be things I'd want to ask him. Don't know why I never thought of it before. He scratches his head absently with a callous thumb. Not sure how I'd feel setting out with a stranger, and a strange one at that, but truth be told, you might be the only one in town who wouldn't feel some relief seeing me swing from that tree. There's a fine reason if I've ever heard one. He shrugs. All right then, guess I'll do some sightseeing. He glances briefly at the tree. As long as you're not the one picking the sights. He tilts his head forward and gives you a pointed look. Well, let's get going. Adair seems like a good soul, if a little irreverent. You see the magistrate, Urjat, is back in the square. You don't like the man, but you feel it is in your best interests to keep apprised of local news, especially when it concerns a lord who'd have you hanged for the abilities you're even now trying to get rid of. I have received confirmation that Lord Roderick's heir was not born well. My lord has issued an injunction on all new homesteads until it can be assured that the village has been cleansed of Aethasians and whatever other undesirables that have brought this curse upon our lands. It would be best if you left town as soon as possible. I would suggest returning to your old home. There will be no place for you here. You may stay at the inn until you can make the necessary arrangements, but I would not advise on remaining long. I expect Lord Roderick would be most thorough in his efforts to purify this place. Indeed. Tell me about those ruins behind the tree. That's what's left of the Temple of Aethys. His lips pucker. Lord Roderick forbade worship of the dead god after the Saints' War. It's been abandoned for almost 15 years, but there are plans to rededicate it to Berith, the god of life and death. Abandoned because some nice lord decided to pull it down because he was scared of its god even after it died. Berith's a good choice, though. I like it. Berith believes in cycles. I like to think what happened to that temple will get repaid someday, too. Well then, I'll be on my way. Taking Urjat at his word, you decide the best course of action is to leave Gilded Vale behind you. It hurt that you weren't able to find Kalicia's sister, but it wasn't worth your life to stay here. You set out for Cadnua and answers.
Saw you in the flames.
Squatting at the base of this statue is an incredibly ugly man, with bulging red cheeks raked by pox scars and a scraggly beard. He is sweating, as if he has a fever, but his breathing is measured and steady, like a slow push of a blacksmith's bellows, but that comparison feels strange and unwelcome. The next comparison, possibly sparked by his grin, is that of a bear trap, and then out of nowhere there is a hint of alchemical fire that fades almost as soon as you identify the smell. Come to pray at the statue? The question mark is barely there. As the man makes a statement, the statue takes on a reddish cast, as if one is holding a torch to it, then slowly blossoms into waving flames. The man doesn't turn as the statue blossoms into fire. The others are welcome, but it's best if just you and I trade words, and your shadows stay quiet, hands off their weapons, both arcane and steel. His face tenses with an iron bear trap smile, ready to spring. It's only you I want to trade words with anyway. I swear before the whore that is Magron, no harm will come to you in her shadow, if that's enough of a promise for you. If not... A staff rests easily in his hand. It wasn't there a moment ago. The weaving firelight from the statue gives off no heat, so much so you wonder if it is some trick of the mind. The ugly man before you doesn't seem to notice it or feel it, although the sheen on his brow is still present, as if he's burning from within. Looking closer at the man, the sudden weaving flames from the statue of Magron cast more light on his features. The man's robes are dirty, stained with grease and other marks of the road. The hems of his robes, including the sleeves, are burned at the edges, as if he walked a great distance across a fire and then reached into the flames with his hands to pull something out. But while his hands are thick and calloused, they bear no burn or scorch marks. Looking at the staff, it looks thick, stout, of blackened ash, once burned by a terrible fire. Beneath the ash, the lines of the wood bear shapes and patterns, and there is a certainty that the staff was once something far more dangerous, but not now. As you study it deeper, it shimmers slightly in your eyes, like water catching the light weaving across the statue. Whatever power was bled from the staff, it doesn't make it, or the wielder, any less dangerous. You look up to see the man watching you studying the staff. As his gaze meets yours, he nods you with a humorless smile. Strange choice of company. Stone seems cold comfort. The man smiles slightly at your words, then nods, never taking his eyes off you. I could do better, though the road holds little else. His eyes run the length of your frame, and he follows with a sneer. Until now. The world holds many whores we worship. Respect comes with honest titles. I'll bet even you've gone against instinct in exchange for a little copper, or paid for such in countless ways. But if I give offense... The man's face cracks a smile with teeth, almost a dare. If words are all that are left to a man, then why, in the Dyrwood of all places, he should have leave to speak them. I didn't catch your name, or why you want to speak with me. I didn't give it. The man grunts. You probably find names as useless as I do. His hand tightens around the staff. The names that litter this world like debris are hard enough to wrap around the tongue. And what do they matter? It's what's beneath the skin and the letters I care about. What burns within. It's more important to me you're a watcher than whatever culture or accent decorates your letters like awkward crowns. Take pride in your actions, not where you hail from. The man's staff blossoms with fire for a moment, then the embers settle. Or how your name rolls off whatever liar's tongue coats it now. If you need a title to hang on me or match your own, watcher, then call me Durance. And as you observe souls, I test them. How did you know I was a watcher? Durance shakes his head, and his hand curls tightly on his staff. I can see the questions bubbling up. Let's burn them away, one by one. I am a missionary. I walk this diseased nation with its heathens, its people so careless with the spirits of others and their own, watchers among them. Yes, I know you for what you are, and your name doesn't interest me. Names are for honest folk, and you are a crack that shines light from another place. We were meant to travel together, you and I. Saw you in the flames, not your face, but that soul of yours. He grunts again, his eyes narrowing, all tightened up like a huntsman's knot. You saw my soul in the flames. There's things we can teach each other. If you're in need of answers to your mantle of questions. This man, Durance, unsettles you, but there's truth to his words. It sounds almost like what he's describing as the haze, if another flavor of it. I don't force my words on anyone other than you. I don't care who walks with you, or what their mewling problems and politics are. There's enough howling in the world without me stoking that fire. I won't take from your possessions, don't need much on the road. I can carry my weight. I won't take from your possessions, don't need much on the road. I can carry my weight. He inhales, again giving you the impression of a blacksmith's bellows, and he smiles, almost proudly, which is considerable. Many will stand against you. He stares at you for a moment, his brow creasing. They probably already have, from what I can see. Left their marks. It seems like a trail, worming its way behind you. What kind of marks? He stares at your face, then into your eyes, almost dully at first, then more intensely. Disease? Spirit wind? He shrugs. Both could have touched you, yet here you stand. As for disease, he taps the pox scars on his face. Not all of us were close to water when the pox hit, but it's no longer a passenger in my flesh. It left its marks as well. But like flames, the pox doesn't strike twice, nor is it catching. I don't understand you, Durance, but company would be welcome on the road. Durance's face cracks into a smile. Then let us walk together, Watcher. You don't think you'll ever understand why so many people want to follow around a simple, twice-cursed carpenter. This Durance seems wrong in some way you can't put your finger on. Well, company on the road should scare off the wildlife, and worse. Just off the side of the path into Cadnua stands an imposing figure, a tall, thick-set Aumaua, clad in worn armor and peering up at the outer walls of the keep. In his hand is a small piece of charcoal, and it works feverishly at taking notes upon a small scrap of paper. More than once, he has to reach up to prevent his colorful cap from falling off his head as he gazes upwards. What are you doing over there? The man looks over at you, blinking in surprise. His face splits into a wide and very toothy grin, and he waves a parchment in greeting. Killing time, if I'm honest. I've already walked the perimeter twice. There are names scratched upon some of the bricks just there. Workers and masons, I expect, carving a little immortality for themselves. He looks up at the wall again, expression fond. It's a fine keep, Cadnoa. 2 centuries to its name, and abandoned for nearly as long. But the truly interesting part is in there. He points the piece of charcoal at the gates. And I haven't had much luck in reaching the keep itself. I hope to find the master of this place, a man by the name of Merwald. But it seems he either holds his privacy most dear, or else has been devoured by his house guests. I came here looking for Merwald as well. Truly! Then perhaps we can help one another. The grounds are infested with all manner of beasts. I've never seen the like. I didn't want to risk it alone, but you seem capable. Together, I am sure we could manage it, and then we can ask our questions of Merwald. I seek a great treasure, you see. Not gold or silver, but the Tanvi Ora Toa. You might call it the Book of Virtues. It's a sacred text of Rauatai, but we only possess a fragment of it. A year I've journeyed in search of the rest, and I've uncovered evidence which leaves me to believe that the original lies just there, beneath the keep. Why would the Tanvi Ora Toa be here in the Dyrwood? Precisely! That is a very good question. It is a long and twisting tale, my friend, as all good chance should be. I can tell you more if you wish it in time. Let's go meet Merwald, then. Excellent. Lead on, my friend, and I will be at your heels. Wait, speaking of that, I ought to warn you first. Wondrous teeth, I nearly forgot. I have at times been followed. It began in Edir, and in Ishamiddle they attacked me outright. I believe they do not wish me to find what I am looking for. I say believe, but I've been told as much by one of my would-be assassins. I pay them little mind. Humorless sorts and long roads. That's why I brought the sword, you see. And it's only fair that you should know. You seem very calm about this. Well, it's not as if I'm going to turn around and go home at their urging. If the previous efforts are anything to go by, we have very little to worry about. You wake up in the courtyard. Your traveling companions lay where they fell. You cast your mind into the mists and see the lights of their souls still tethered to their bodies. You're all alive, but you aren't alone. You'd never seen a ghost before. The souls echo, sure, but the wraiths here, they were wrong. Dead and stuck. What happened here? You rouse your companions and regroup outside the keep. You are not ready for this. Coming to a consensus, you all agree to return to Gilded Vale and resupply. Roderick be damned. You'll figure out where to go from there. The Saumoa man is of an impressive build, towering above the countertop. His skin is the dusky blue of the deeper ocean, and his thick arms boast corded muscle. Small ears frame a square-jawed face, coated in smeared soot and arcing black tattoos alike. He offers you a broad smile as you approach. Welcome! You're the first new face I've seen in quite some time. What can I do for you? Is this your shop? That it is. Been here near on 20 years now, seen all manner of things over the years, good luck and bad. Tuatanu glances at the guard standing watch along the wall, but the Black Hammer smithery remains. What do you have here? Ah, you've come to us at a strange time, I'm afraid. The stock's not what it used to be. But we've got fine weapons and armor to offer yet, all forged right here at the Black Hammer. What happened? We just don't have the supplies. Been expecting the next delivery for near on a week now, and we haven't seen sign of it. Have to expect they were hit by bandits. The road out east is crawling with them. Or my workers ran off with the wagon themselves, maybe, to make some coin. As if that lot would dare. He's right about the bandits. With dire situations in villages like this, and the exodus to the cities has created far too many opportunities for unscrupulous sorts. Tuatanu scratches his jaw, thinking, if you happen to be headed that way, maybe you could keep an eye out for the supply wagon? Or my shipment, at least. They'd be cutting through the Black Meadow, I expect. Only good road for it. As it is, most of our weapons go to His Grace, Lord Radric. Tuatanu glances at the nearby guard, and that's as it should be. But it doesn't leave much for outsiders. We just don't have the iron. I'll see them back safe and sound. I'd appreciate you trying anyhow. You bring back the supplies at least, and I'll have much more to offer you. A discount to start. And if you do find my workers, you give them a good smack upside the head for me. Speaking to Tuatanu gives you an idea. While you're more or less stuck in Gilded Vale for the moment, you don't have to be in danger of Roderick's whims if you can help it. And it breaks your heart to see the people here so miserable. If you can help them out, you stand a better chance of not joining Caldara and Swithin. Maybe you could learn more about the specters haunting Cadnua. You decide to talk to Pasha again, ask about the state of the town. She has more to say than you expected, and you soon find yourself resolving a feud between the local miller and a roustabout named Swainer. She also tells you the story of the Blackhound Inn, how the owner pulled up stakes and skipped town, leaving his little black dog Henrietta behind. The poor dog was still upstairs, waiting for him. You gave Henrietta a small piece of your dinner out of pity, and soon found yourself another traveling companion. Finally, when you asked Pasha about Kalisha's sister, she directed you to Avra, who was recently widowed, living in a house just north of the inn. A dear wooden woman is standing in front of the fireplace, humming a quiet tune to herself, or perhaps to her unborn child, for she is clearly quite pregnant. She turns her head slightly as you enter. Well, finally, I was starting to think... The woman makes a startled noise once she turns around and sees you. Oh, I'm sorry, I was expecting someone else. She gives you a cautious smile. Can I help you? Nice cat. Avra smiles brightly. Oh, thank you. She's a sweetheart. Keeps the house clear of mice, too. Well, I've just arrived in Gilded Vale. I thought I'd get to know the locals. Were you with one of the caravans? She looks at you hopefully. Master Odima's, by chance? You know Odima? Well, no more than most here, I'd say. He doesn't usually come this way, but they say he's a reliable old fellow. She pauses, brows furrowing. Wait. Why do you say new? I'm sorry, but the caravan was attacked. I was the only one to survive. Avra covers her mouth with a hand, eyes wide with horror. For a few moments, she can manage nothing but a strangled, voiceless gasp, her eyes brimming with tears. I knew. I told her it was a dangerous path to take. Kalisha was always so certain she could take on any danger. Avra sniffs. My poor sister. I'm sorry, stranger, I can't believe she's gone. If only I hadn't called her here. If I hadn't written to her, she might still be alive somewhere. Avra's face crumples and a solitary tear slides down her cheek. Kalisha mentioned that she thought you needed help. Perhaps I can provide some assistance? Avra looks at you with some surprise before dabbing her nose with a sleeve. That's kind of you to offer. I don't know if I can impose this on you. It's not a small favor. Avra wipes her eyes. I'm worried about the baby. About the legacy. I told Kalisha as much as I could, but all I know is that for a long time now, every child born in Gilded Vale has been soulless. Empty. It's happened to so many mothers, and Lord Radric, he's exiled all of them, calling it a sign of the gods' disfavor. With my Hathor gone, I don't know how to manage if I lost my home, too. I hoped Kalisha could help me. They say Ranga, a midwife, knows ways to prevent a child being hollowborn, but she moved to Unslug's Compass south of here 2 seasons ago. The journey's too far for me. I can't make it as I am. But I don't have anyone else now. With Kalisha gone. More tears run down her face. Please, can you help me? I will find Ranga for you. Avra blinks, her eyes wide. You will? Oh, God bless you. Here, I'll give you some coin to pay her with. You needn't trouble yourself with that. I think it's a drink she fashions out of... Well, I'm not sure. but it shouldn't be too much of a burden to carry back. Einsluck's compass is what we call the lagoon to the south. You'll have to cross the wilds to get there. That's what keeps me from trying it myself. She clasps her hands together. Thank you again, truly. You'll be saving us both. She sets her hand on her stomach, smiling through her tears. Not much has changed since you passed through here a few days ago. You see the riverbank where you met Naughton, the kith who accompanied you to Gilded Vale. You recall the story of his friend, Pearly, who was mauled by a bear just to the north, and an endeavor to avoid it if possible. You begin to look for signs of Tenfrith. As luck would have it, you spot a ransacked cart to the north of the river, in the direction of the bear. You debate turning back and reporting what you found to Pasha, but you don't know that Tenfrith is dead. You follow the tracks by the cart away, in hopes they lead to Tenfrith. Of course, they lead you straight to a cave. With the bear dead, you see the body of what can only be Pearly. As you approach, your vision hazes over with purple mist again. A figure drifts, suspended in the musty air of the cavern, its form and features blur and twist in cascading ripples of incandescence. You feel its energy eddying about your limbs, filling them with a heavy chill. You reach out a hand for the spirit. In the moment of contact, you feel as if you've been struck a blow, head reeling as you tumble helplessly into the waiting darkness. Light blooms at the edge of your vision. You feel the sun at your back and the weight of the bow in your hand. You know, suddenly, that you've come a long way from the Vale, hunting deer. Now you're standing before a cavern, and the darkness extends far into its depths. Even so, your friend strides out before you, his red cloak flapping at his heels. You follow, heart hammering in your chest, as he leads you deeper into the cavern. There's a roar like thunder echoing around you. Fear seizes you, casts you stumbling back towards the exit, towards light and escape. You see a glint of steel. And there's a sudden terrible flash of agony behind your knee. You scream, stumble, fall. Your thoughts are chaos, lanced through with pain, but in a moment of terrible clarity, you see your friend look back from the mouth of the cavern, his dagger daubed in crimson to match his cloak. And then there is a great dark shape above you, and then there is more pain. The vision recedes. You are thrown back into yourself with seemingly resentful force. The corpse lies at your feet, and the specter lingers. In the span of energy between you both, you feel a sense of questioning, confusion, of anger. Oh, I met him on the road, your friend. A sudden lashing anger emanates from the spirit. Rage and grief seem to pour from the gleaming figure like smoke. Pearly, I will find Naughton, and I will see that he answers for what he's done to you. For a moment, the spirit seems to burn bright, and your head fills with a sickly triumph. The spirit seems to weaken with the force of its own exultation, growing fainter and fainter, until you're alone once more. Derk? Khan appears at you with obvious concern. Are you feeling unwell? You're behaving a little oddly. I probably should have mentioned this. I'm a watcher. A true speaker for the dead. I never thought I'd meet one in the flesh. Do you know of any cure? I'm sorry, but no. All the stories I've heard focus on the ability itself. Watchers are just as often regarded as events in some cultures. Oh, that's a shame. Anyway, whatever it is, I'm tired of it. It did seem to hit you hard. Perhaps we might look into it. There must be some way to diminish the effects. Hopefully. Let's keep moving. You miss home. There's nothing good about the Dyrwood. Where friends murder friends, paranoid lords exterminate anyone with a hint of soul magic, and the very weather cleaves your essence from your living body. Still, you were now determined. First, to bring Nathan to justice. Second, to find the lost cook. To leave even the smallest glint of hope in this wretched, broken land. And then you hear it. Murmurs through the trees. The young dwarf tending to the stew looks up, startled, as he sees you approach. He drops his ladle, spattering stew across the ground. What? The bandit turns. Get him, you dogs! Make sure our new cook don't run off. Help! Please help me! One of the bandits gives Tenforth a kick as he passes him, and he huddles. It's over. Blood is rushing in your ears, your heart pounding. You survived. You look down. Your hammer, sticky with blood. The crumpled form of the bandit at your feet. Dead by your hand. Your hand. You drop to your knees in the wet mud. You hold your hammer slack. It happens so quickly, you just... Hey, Derk, you okay over there? You glance up at Adair, concern on his face. I didn't see you get hit. I think that this one hasn't snuffed out a life before. Oh. I get it. Listen, I'll tell you from experience that you get used to it. But it don't get any easier. You feel the acid boiling up in your stomach. You drop to your hands and retch onto the muddy ground. Oh, right. Well, maybe it does get a little easier. Come on, let's get out of here.